Welcome everyone, I'm absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're going on a wild adventure. Close your eyes for just a second. I want you to imagine you're standing in a dusty, boiling hot wasteland. The sun is beating down on you, sand is literally everywhere, and there are no grocery stores, no restaurants, zero places to get a snack. Well, this is exactly where the Israelites found themselves in our biblical text today. We're going to look at an incredible story from Psalm 78 that shows us this repeating cycle of choices they made and exactly how he responded to them. All right, let's dive right in.
So, imagine walking for days in that scorching desert and being incredibly hungry. You know that feeling when your tummy is rumbling louder than a thunderstorm? The people of Israel were so tired and so hungry that they actually spoke against him. They asked the exact question we see right here. Can he really spread a table in the wilderness? Basically, they were asking, can he really set up a massive, delicious feast for us out here in the absolute middle of nowhere? It's a huge question, and what happens next is just fascinating.
Section 1. Doubting him in the wilderness.
This is the very first stage of the cycle we're looking at today. See, the Israelites struggled with a really big doubt, even after everything they'd already witnessed with their own two eyes. On one hand, look at what he did. He actually struck a solid rock, and water gushed out. Real streams flowed abundantly right there in the dry desert to quench their incredible thirst. That's a massive miracle. But then, instead of trusting him, what did they ask? They said, but can he also give us bread? Can he supply meat for his people? Even after seeing a rock turn into a literal waterfall, they still didn't have the faith that he could provide solid food for them.
So how did he react to this lack of trust? Well, when he heard them, he was furious. His fire broke out against Jacob, and his wrath rose against Israel. You might be wondering why. It's because they didn't believe in him or trust in his deliverance. They completely forgot that he had the power to save them and take care of them, no matter where they were.
Section 2. Food from the skies. Now you might think that because he was so furious, he'd just leave them there with empty stomachs, right? But instead, he responded to their doubt not with a tiny little snack, but with an overwhelming, mind-blowing miracle. This really shows the massive scale of his power. He didn't just drop a few sandwiches down to them. He commanded the skies above and opened the doors of heaven. He let loose the east wind and used his power to make the south wind blow, and then he rained meat down on them like dust and birds like sand on the seashore. Just imagine looking up and seeing thousands upon thousands of birds safely landing right in your camp. It was an absolute feast, way larger than anything you could probably ever imagine.
And he didn't just stop at meat. He rained down something called manna. In the biblical text, it's described beautifully as the grain of heaven and the bread of angels. That means human beings were eating the exact same bread that angels eat. He gave them all the food they could possibly want, dropping it straight from the sky. It just shows how incredibly generous he is, providing such wondrous, special food for his people.
He made all this amazing food come right down inside their camp, all around their tents. And as the verses tell us, they ate till they were gorged. That means they ate until their bellies were totally stuffed and they couldn't possibly take another single bite. He gave them exactly what they craved. He answered their big doubt with literally the biggest dinner party the desert had ever seen.
Section 3. Forgetting and facing consequences. Okay, so now our story takes a bit of a sad turn. This is probably the hardest part of the cycle to understand, because after seeing the water from the rock and eating the bread of angels and having birds rain from the sky, the people very quickly forgot his kindness. The biblical text gives us this shocking detail, while the food was still in their mouths. Think about that for a second. Before they even finished chewing their miraculous meal, before they'd even swallowed the food they begged for, they kept right on sinning. They didn't even wait for dinner to be over before they stopped believing in his wonders. And because of this, there were very serious consequences. It's super important for us to remember that our actions and our choices always have consequences. Because they still didn't believe in spite of all his wonders, his anger rose against them. He put to death the sturdiest young men. He ended their days in futility, which basically means things became pointless and frustrating for them, and he ended their years in terror. It became a really difficult, scary reality for them, all because they chose not to trust him.
Now, whenever these scary consequences happened, they would suddenly turn around and seek him again. But the sad truth, they were just putting on a show. The text tells us they flattered him with their mouths and lied to him with their tongues. If you don't know, flattery is when you say really nice things just to get out of trouble, but you don't actually mean a word of it. The truth was their hearts were not loyal to him. They weren't faithful to his covenant. They were just saying the right words while their hearts were a million miles away.
Section 4. His great mercy.
We are now entering the final and definitely the most beautiful part of our journey today. Despite everything the Israelites did wrong, despite the complaining, the doubting, and the lies, we're about to see something truly wonderful about who he is. Look at this timeline of how often the people grieved him in the wasteland. It was like a giant repeating loop. Day 1, they'd sin and rebel. Day 2, they faced consequences and desperately sought him. Day 3, they remembered he was their rock and their redeemer. But by day 4, they were right back to flattering him with lies while their hearts were completely unloyal. They just kept repeating the exact same mistakes over and over in the wilderness.
But here is the greatest plot twist of the entire story. After all of that repeating rebellion, the text says, "Yet he was merciful." Time and time again, he forgave their iniquities, which means he forgave their deep sins and all their bad choices. He didn't destroy them. He actually restrained his anger and chose not to stir up his full wrath against them. Even when they were completely unfaithful, he remained full of mercy.
And the biblical text brilliantly illustrates exactly why he was so merciful. I absolutely love how it's described here. He remembered that they were but flesh, a passing breeze that does not return. He understood human weakness, guys. He knew that people are fragile, kind of like a quick breeze that blows past your face and then is just gone. His patience and his deep understanding for his people were so much greater than their mistakes.
So as we wrap up our explainer today, I really want to leave you with a powerful question to think about. Knowing his great mercy, knowing that he forgives and even provides bread from angels when we mess up, how can you make sure your heart is truly loyal to him today? We definitely don't want to be like the people who just flattered him with their tongues while their hearts were far away. Let's make sure we trust him, remember his wonders, and give him our completely honest, loyal hearts. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and keep asking great questions as you continue exploring the amazing truths in the biblical text.